as part of using Teams. So Teams is an application that allows us to collaborate and work together. It allows us to chat and communicate. You can use it for file distribution, calling, tracking projects. And so we're just going to look at some of the things that you'll find in the environment. So first of all, over here on the left, we have what's called the action bar. And the action bar has little icons available. So there's one labeled activity, chat, Teams, calendar, calls, and files. And as I click on any of those, I'm going to click on the Teams so I can show you the rest of the environment. As I click on those, you're going to find that it changes what you see in the rest of the environment. Okay, so this is the action bar. Next to the action bar, we have the list section. And so whatever I have selected here, whether it's activities or chat or Teams, this list is going to show a list of items. And so right now it's showing you 2 teams. I've hidden all the rest of my teams because they're boring. They've got a bunch of work going on in them right now. And so we're going to just enjoy ourselves in this Teams environment. So, so this is where the list is going to show us information. Now, as I select different teams, you can see I have the instructor team and I have the webinar team that we created earlier today, and we'll create a team in just a moment. But in the webinar section, you'll notice that when I select one of these items, these are called channels. If I select one of those, you can see different information. So maybe it's a different conversation. Okay. And so all of those things are contained in the list. In this larger section that keeps changing conversation and changing, you saw some GIFs and some likes and some things like that going on, you'll notice that we have some tabs across the top here. Okay, so the first 3, posts, files, and wiki, are default. When you create a team, those tabs are going to appear. But there's another one here, actually 2 more, that have been added by, well, me in both cases. One is a trainer guide, and that's a specific team file that we want to be able to everybody look at and talk about. And the other one is Power BI. So I can add additional tabs that I might need within that channel. And we'll talk a little bit more about what a channel is after I get done here. So we'll come back to that. Over here, outside of the content section, we have your upper right-hand corner, you can see your login picture. And if I click on that, there's a list of options for my availability. Am I busy? Do not disturb, be right back, appears away. You can even set a custom status message here. Okay, and this is also where you'll find all of the settings for your overall teams. So if I click on this, I can change the appearance. I've got default, dark, and then high contrast. And this follows the typical Microsoft structure. So on the left-hand side here, I've got general, privacy, notifications. So if I want to make sure I stop getting a bunch of emails from a particular channel, then I can come over here to notifications, and under channel mentions, I can click that drop down and tell it to just give me a banner or just show it in the feed instead of including an email every time something like that happens. Or you can shut it completely off. And there are lots of different things that you can customize there. So I encourage you to dig into that a little bit more. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the settings because I know there are other tools that we want to be able to use. But you'll notice that notifications, devices, permissions, and calls all have their own settings. So take a look at that when you get an opportunity. They're all right there under your login information. Now also right below that, there's another ellipse that shows off to the right here, and this is where I can customize some things about this channel. So, so within, I'm on the contractor guide, okay? And so I can set just specific channel notifications. So if I change it here at the login, that notification is going to show up for all channels But if I just want fewer pieces of communication from this channel, then I can go here to the channel notifications and make that change. Okay, so that's kind of the general layout. If we want to create if you want to create a communication, I'm getting some communications right now. But if you want to come over here to the channel, then again, you'll see channel notifications over here as well. So in the list, I can access some of those things as well. All right, so I want to take a look at creating a team. Now, in some cases, this will be done for you, and in other cases, this is going to happen by yourself. You get to do it. You'll be the owner. Okay, so down here at the bottom of the list, you can see that I have the option to join or create a team. And I can click the option here to create team. You can see that there's one other team that is a public team. So I could join that team if I wanted to. I also can create a team. So if I click create team, then I have two options. I can build a team from scratch, or I can create from an existing Office 365 group or team. So that may be something that your IT department sets up for you, and then you can kind of connect those two together so that you have distribution and all that stuff. I'm going to just choose the option to build a team from scratch. And then I have three more choices. I can create a private team, which means people need permission to join that team. I have to give them a code, or I have to give them a link, or I have to let them request permission to join. We also could make it public, which means then anybody can join. So you just click the option and you basically join. Or you can have one that is organization-wide, so you don't have to make everybody in your company join. The only caveat here is each team can only have 250 members. So you're not able to join more than 250 people. You would have to subgroup if your organization is larger than that. All right, so I'll create a private team, and we'll just call this PM webinar. And then I'm going to create. So you'll see this appear over here after just a few seconds. Now I need to add people to this team. And so since David is my helper, I'm going to add David Williams to the team. And after a few seconds, you see that he becomes a member. I could add other people if I wanted to, add other instructors. I'm going to go ahead and close that team for now. All right, so so we have a couple of things that are happening here. When I created my team, it automatically created a general category or a general channel. Okay, so why would I need other channels? Well, right now, this channel has those three tabs that I was talking about: posts, files, and wiki. Okay. And if I post a conversation, everybody that's part of this team, which actually right now is only David and I, gets that communication. And this will kind of scroll like a news feed. So as you stay connected to this, then you're going to see ways that that communication can take place. Now, David can reply to my message. So there's an option here to reply. Thank you for the ad. He did. Now, I could reply back to him and keep the conversation going, but maybe maybe I don't need that much. I'm actually just going to click the like button to let him know or to acknowledge that I got his communication. Okay, so now I will reply because I want to show you one other thing that you can do. This is called a mention. So I'm going to use the @ symbol before his name. If you don't know, I have 2 little girls, so I know that that cat is Pusheen. If you don't know that, that's who I'm talking about. So, but when I mentioned this, you notice that it underlines David's name, and so it highlights it. Now, when someone mentions you, several things are going to happen. You're going to get this @ symbol beside your name. And as we scroll down, those don't go away. So you'll see that sometimes I'll see one of those up here under my activity. Probably because I was looking at this, it didn't even show up on activity. But sometimes you'll see something pop up for chat. There will be a number up here like your email counter tells you how many emails you have that are unread. Sometimes Teams will have an @ symbol. So I'll be notified if here, let's try this, David. I'm going to go to the other webinar and you mention me in that one. So, so watch what happens on my action bar over here in just a few seconds, hopefully. Now you can tell that something has taken place because the general PM webinar channel is displaying something, but it's not showing me. It's not going to play nice. It normally, oh, there it is. It just took it a while. So I can see there's activity, I can see the @ symbol, and I can see that it's in this channel. And so then I can click on it and there's the @ sign. So this is how you can specifically call out team members to communicate with them. Now, another thing that you might do from time to time is have meetings with teams. So I'm going to show you how to set up meetings so that we can kind of talk about the different questions that might give you. Okay, so you all received a link to today's meeting, and that allowed you to join even though you have not joined our organization. We just let you join as a guest. So when you're talking about meetings and communication with your organization, you need to make sure that your IT department understands if you have the need to create Teams meetings that include people as guests. They're coming from outside your organization because they can make it so that you're not allowed to do that. And if they do, then it doesn't matter whether someone has a link or not, they won't be able to connect to the meeting. They'll just get stuck. Okay, so there are several different ways that you can create meetings. One of them is the action right below Teams here. I'm going to click on Calendar. And when I click on the calendar, you can see my meeting that's already in place has a join button. So if I were to leave it, or if you're in a meeting and someone calls you on Teams and you take that call, it puts your meeting on hold and it accepts the call. Okay, so you can use it just like a phone. We do that in our office on a regular basis, but I would probably not take any calls if someone communicated with me right now. So to create a meeting, I'm going to select the time slot that I want on the calendar and give it a title. I before E, except after C. Okay, and then I'm going to add attendees. Now here's the tricky part. So I can add David Williams to this. You saw there were a couple of other people that I could add. And so I can actually, now the meeting, unless I specify a channel, the meeting will not limit. So I could see anybody that's in my organization when I started adding names. Okay, if I add a channel, then it's going to limit the meeting, or add a team, it's going to limit the meeting to just that particular channel within a team. Okay, so I'm going to send this to David. And now you can see that it appears on my calendar. Right now, I'm the only one that can see this meeting. Anyone that I've invited will get a notification and can add it to their calendar, but I'm the only one that can see it. And if I click on this again, you'll notice that now it has the Microsoft Teams meeting. Okay, I can actually select this and click join, or as it gets closer to the time, if I close out of this, it will have this join button about 15 to 30 minutes before the meeting starts. And you can actually just click the button to join. You don't have to go into the meeting and then click join. So it does try to elevate that for you and make it easier for you to join your meetings. I had someone who actually emailed me as we were rolling up on this meeting and said, I signed up for this, I received the confirmation, but I haven't received my link yet. Can you send it to me? And I was able, so if I go back to my team meeting window, here is what I did. So I had the participants portion open. And right up here at the top, I can invite someone. So if they're part of my organization or I know their email address, then you can just type that in. But you can also just click this link and it will copy it so that you can join info that way. All right, now also, if you're the organizer, you stay at the top of the list. Other people that join might slip down in the list. David's way down here. Okay, but you have the option only if you're the organizer to mute everyone. Okay. I don't think I talked about that this morning or this afternoon when we began, but just because of the number of people, it's better if we can communicate via chat until we get an opportunity to answer some questions. So, if you accidentally forgot to mute when you came in or didn't realize that you weren't muted, then I clicked mute and mute all, and then I get a little box that says, or do you want to mute? And I can confirm that I do. Okay, so I can also show conversations there, so I can see what's happening in the chat. Okay, so we can look at this from several different venues, and I see there's conversation going on about creating meetings for Teams and for Outlook, or creating meetings in Teams or in Outlook, and I am going to address that. So when we look at that calendar that's in Teams, I see the debrief here. I'm going to bring up my Outlook. Oh, good heavens. There's a lot going on here. I'm gonna just close this one calendar because I don't want to look at it. I want you to look at this one. You should see. There it is. Like I can't find it. It's too small. So right here at 3:30 is the debrief. Okay, so it added it to my calendar in Outlook as well as adding it to the calendar in Teams. Now the other side of that is if I create a meeting here, I'll create something on the 9th because it's a little more open for me. So I'll create something on the 9th. So I just selected that square on my calendar, or you can click the new meeting button, and then in this screen, the Teams meeting option actually shows up. So if I click that now, then it adds the Join Microsoft Teams meeting section, just like the meeting did in the Teams calendar. All right, so this will just be, I'm just going to call it Outlook Teams so I can find it on my other calendar. And then David, you're going to have to come to this one. I'll try to delete it when we're done, but send a message. Now, you notice when I add David, he has a little red dot next to his name. That's because David is on a call. So the other nice thing about Teams is it's kind of like Skype for Business or any of those other chatting applications that you may have used before. You can tell when people are busy and when they're not. So I'm going to send this. Then we're just going to go back over to Teams, to the Teams calendar. And it should Let me give it a second. I didn't mean to add anything. Oh, there it is. It appeared. It's just up high. Did I not give it a time? I thought I selected a time slot. Maybe it's all day. So all day, I'm doing an Outlook Teams meeting. Okay. So, so you can set them up in either place. So I can actually come back here to this, and I did. I accidentally made it all day, even though I only wanted it to be for an hour tomorrow. I meant for it to be at 10 o'clock. There it is. And where's 11 o'clock? There it is. Okay. So now, and notice that David's going to get an update. When I click send update, it's going to correct that because David's going to be like, what? I can't give you my whole day. Okay. So, so you can actually make the meeting. Oh, now I've done it. Now I extended it to the 10th. Okay. I'm about 1,000 here. But the good thing is I can actually edit that and say, nope, that should have been the 9th at 11 a.m. and send an update. And at this point, David is like, okay, Suzanne has lost it completely. There we go. Now it is in the right spot and it is the right length. And so everyone would get that confirmed meeting. All right, so basically read carefully before you click send update so that you don't have to send updates 3 times. Moral of that story. So that allows us to create meetings and then joining the meeting, you can join either from your Outlook reminder that pops up and is going to say, give you the option to join online, or you could, like I said, you can come to the Teams calendar and click on the meeting and click join, or if the button is already here to join, then you can do that. Okay, so let's take a moment. Let's go to our chat. What questions anyone in our team, in our Teams meeting today? Do you, David, are there any chat questions so far?
A couple. I think we've answered them. It was mostly around the Outlook and Teams and the meeting and that integration piece. So Rachel had one in regards to Skype and Teams communicating. It will not allow them to use the Skype app to join a Teams meeting. So they would have to utilize either Teams in the web browser or they would have to download that app. Microsoft is in the process of trying to phase out Skype for Business and replace that and make sure everybody's converted over to Teams. The other question, kind of while we're on that topic, is of Microsoft updates in regards to the 4 squares that we see on Suzanne's screen now with CB, MS, CC, and then my picture. Right now, there is only support for the 2x2 view of videos. So many of you have participated maybe in Zoom or Adobe Connect or other, video conferencing platforms that support a much wider range of tiles. So right now, there's nothing that's been spoken or publicized of when that update should be coming, but trust me, the community has been asking for it to try to get some larger grid because most of us not working on a team of 4.
Right. Well, and I see another question that just rolled in. That's a good one while we're on this screen. So I am looking at my Teams meeting window. And that's like why you can see the people that are involved and the chat. And someone asked, what is the best way? How do I share my screen? So on this bar, if I don't move my mouse or if I click somewhere, that bar goes away. But that's your control bar. And all you have to do is move your mouse to get it to pop back up. So I can hang up the call. I can view the participants in my meeting. I can view the chat in my meeting. then I have more actions. And you saw me start the recording, but this is where I can start or stop recording, where I can go into my device settings and pick the microphone or pick the speakers that I'm going to use. I could enter full screen if I wanted to. So this is where all of those things are. And this is actually where I can end the meeting. So as the organizer, I could leave the meeting if I wanted to, and it doesn't end for everyone else. That's something that some other apps in the past have had problems with, because if the organizer, like if your system crashed or whatever, then the meeting died for everyone and everybody has to get back in. Teams is not like that. Once the meeting is up and running, I physically have to go in here and purposely say end meeting, or it's not going to end the meeting for everyone. Okay, and then this button right next to that, let me click over here. This one says stop sharing. So this is what I did. I can't actually show you what it looks like, because if I stop sharing, then you can't see my Teams window. So it's kind of a catch-22. I need to have a meeting within a meeting in order to be able to do this. But basically, when you click on this stop sharing button, or when I click on it to share, I'm going to see all of the open applications. Like there will be just a grid of all the open applications that I have, and all of the windows that I have. So I have two screens. I can pick which screen I want, or I can just click on an application. So it'll say desktop 1 or desktop 2, or it will say PowerPoint or Word or Teams, and you can pick which window you want. So right now I'm sharing my window, and that way if I have things that I want to drag over here and show you, I can do that. It makes it easier for me to communicate that information. Okay, so, and David Williams is requesting control. So should I let him have control? I will allow it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you can see that when she did pass control, what happens is in your organizations, there's configurations that your admins can make as to who can start meetings, who can be presenters on meetings. Is it just the person who created the meeting, or can anybody in the organization be a presenter? So that's a lot of the times what controls or dictates who can share their screen during a conversation or during a meeting. So if, for example, I were to start, or Suzanne's sharing her screen currently, I have the option based on our organization settings that I could just start sharing my screen. I don't have to ask for permission necessarily. I can just do it. Now, your organization may not be configured that way because, like I said, there's our options each can set. Now, if on my bar here at the bottom, I actually had, about in this section, a button that said request control. And that's what I clicked on to send Suzanne the notification that I would like to take control of her screen for a moment. And then you can see our two pointers with our little heads chasing each other.
Okay.
Enough of that. So,
sorry.
But I wanted you to see what that looked like, right? But I don't want to stop Suzanne's presentation or necessarily share my screen, because you can't really show that whole request control feature while you're in a meeting, so to speak.
Right, but you were able to at least, we did see it. You did see it pop up at the top that David was requesting control. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
And then, well, I was just looking at Elisa's comment. So yeah, if it doesn't have the request control, that again is either they're a guest and guests may not request control, or that feature's been disabled within the tenant. So that would be a call up to the IT team to say, hey, we would like to have this functionality added in.
I saw another question roll past there. Thanks, David. So someone said, I just jumped from one application to another. All I'm doing is, you can't see around my window that there's a red box, okay? But when I click this share button, If I click it to stop, it's going to stop sharing, and I can't actually, again, I can't show you what that looks like. So practice with a team meeting sometime, or do a join now, put my meeting on hold and go look at it. That is a possibility. I'll show you join now in just a moment. But when you click that share, I said I can choose to share a desktop, or I can choose to share a specific application. So what I did is I shared my whole desktop, which means that now I can just click on my Outlook icon and it pops up in your face, and then I click on it again and it disappears. Teams was still there the whole time. Okay, David's got a screenshot for us. So let me see here if I can make this a little bigger. So this is what you see when you click this button to share. So I have desktop 1, and then I have just my Teams app. He's got Snip and Sketch. He's got Outlook. He's got some other things down there that I can't quite see. This is desktop 2. Okay, and there's also this checkbox to include system audio. That's how I was playing my jazz music when you came in and we're looking at the PowerPoint slides. So I had a web browser open that had a jazz music pulled up, and then I had the PowerPoint slide in another tab. And so I actually just ran the presentation from the web in order to get the music to play. If you don't do it that way, then you can't hear, or you'd have to be playing something on your system. So I don't have any cool music on my system. I just go out to the web and find it. Okay, so that's what it looks like when you go to share, and then you would just click on the window that you wanted to share. So if I want a desktop, then I would choose whichever one of these I wanted you to see. Or if I have a bunch of stuff open, maybe I'm working and I don't want you to see everything that's on my screen, then I might just say, well, let's just share PowerPoint, right? Let's just share Outlook, just that one thing. Okay, so that's kind of what that allows us to do. All right, thank you, David. That worked very well.
Sure. And real quick, Kathleen, so on that sound settings, if, for example, I'm doing a screen sharing and I do not select to include the system audio, and let's say I bring up a website like YouTube and I want to show a really cool YouTube video, the other participants wouldn't hear the audio coming through that video unless I check that box for my screen sharing to also pass the audio through.
So if that's the case, if you forgot, all you have to do is click stop sharing and then click share again and check the box before you select which window or which application you want to share. Okay. Other questions? Did we get them all? How do you configure the screen to show more than 14 members? Can't do it. I think David got to that one. Okay. Are we ready to move on? Do we have any more meeting questions? David, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I think that hit everything in there. If anybody had any other questions, feel free to chat them all. I'll keep an eye on it for you.
Okay. So, so I want to talk a little bit about collaboration and calls. Let's do calls next, because that's another way that you're going to use Teams a lot, I think. Methinks. So let's go to the action over here, calls, and you can see that I have all of my organization here that are able to that I'm able to view these contacts. I can add a new group if I have a group of people that I want to be able to communicate with on a regular basis or call. You see there are different icons. So David is in a presentation, and so his shows that he's in a call. Sean's away. Terry and Thelma are available. That's jump on that. Now, Jeffrey has this one with so it's the red mark with the hash through it, and David and Brian's are not. Okay, so there's a little bit of a difference there. You can see in my status up here at the top, it says your status is set to do not disturb. And what that means is you're not going to get email notifications. You're not going to get all those things that normally come pouring into your desktop. You're not going to get. Okay, if you If you look down at my taskbar, you can see that Outlook is down there and I have the little envelope, so I'm sure I've got plenty of messages, but I'm not seeing any of those come rolling in. And I'm not getting notifications from Teams either because that little white hash mark means do not disturb. So Jeffrey and I have it set to do not disturb. Brian's is a little bit different. What that means is if someone chats with you, it'll pop up right where this little webinar window is of David. It'll pop up on the screen and you can reply to it if you want to, or you can ignore it in chat. Okay, so, but even if David tried to do that, I think it wouldn't do it because I have mine set to do not disturb. So I'd have to go in and change the settings to allow it so that could happen. So if you don't mind multitasking and chatting while you're talking on the phone or whatever, then that's okay. So to place a call, if you already have someone in your contact list, you just click the phone icon and it will call that person. Okay, we'll give you their phone. Now, if I call someone who's already on a call, if I just ignore this and I say, well, David, needs to take my call, whatever he's doing, I can call it and he'll get a notification because he's not set to do not disturb. And he can choose if he wants to accept that call, and it just puts my call on hold. What that would look like is this little window that was down here automatically pops up to the top and it says on hold right across the top. Okay, so you could continue your call when you were done with the person that you had accepted, or if you're in a meeting and you just want to take someone's call real quick and then jump back into the meeting, it puts the meeting on hold, and then you would just come back over here and click the pause button and it puts you right back into the meeting. Okay, now I can add people that I want. I don't have a favorites section. David had a favorites section. So you can add people to speed dial, okay, or favorites, depending on what that looks like on your screen. So mine says speed dial, which basically means it just keeps them at the top of the list, okay? Or I can remove them from speed dial. Okay, so if I add David, add him to speed dial, then that puts him up in my favorites section. Okay, so that is using this for calling purposes. Now, if I did call David and he doesn't answer, there is an option over here that goes to voicemail. Now, I don't have any voicemails. Nobody calls me and leaves me messages in Teams. David has a few. Maybe he'll share his screen a little bit later on and we can see those. But basically, it looks like a typical voicemail queue. You can see who it was and when they called, and it actually does its best to translate it for you. So if you have a phone that you're used to seeing transcripts of things that have been converted, then you'll see that in Teams as well. It is not tied into your organization voicemail. So if you have a soft phone system or you have a physical phone, you are going to see that this is a separate voicemail. Okay, you will get activity that tells you that you have something, and when you click on it, you'll see that voicemail is the active thing. Okay, it'll do the thing where it shows you under calls that you've missed calls. Okay, so just like chat has an icon here, then now so that deals with using calls. If I have contacts, I can select contacts, and this is really the same thing as using someone in your organization, but you may not know everyone's name, or you may not have to communicate with every single person. And so you might have a really long list of people. We have a fairly short list. So I can search to find a contact and I can add a contact. But again, you can't add phone numbers outside of your organization for calling purposes. Okay, so you can see there are phone numbers in here, but it doesn't let you actually call those phone numbers, at least not the way we have it set up. David, did we purposely make it so you can't use this for outside calling?
Yeah, yes. So our conferencing bridge had a limited number of available lines. So, and we don't do a whole lot of the audio conferencing any longer due to the fact that we have tools like Teams and other things that we use. But if you do have a conferencing bridge system, your IT team can configure that to where you could use your teams for calling outside your organization. But yes, ours is configured just for internal calling.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I want to take the next few moments to just talk about, well, let me ask you, we've got about 15 minutes left. Would you rather learn more about, let's talk more about the teams. Would you rather learn more about the teams and these additional tabs, or would you rather learn a little bit more about chatting, using chat for communication? If you respond in chat, so click your little chat icon and you can tell David and he'll convey that to me. Both, please. Okay, well, I'll do my best to fit that in then. All right, so on Teams, we did talk a little bit about communicating here. So communicating with the whole group. If you want to communicate with an individual, there is a button up here at the top that lets you create a new chat. And that new chat is not with the entire team. The new chat is with an individual or a smaller group. Okay, so I can choose one of the instructors and I can create a chat with Brian. Now you're going to see it's going to take you back to the previous conversation string that you have with that particular individual. So you can see we were talking about some classes yesterday and some things like that. So sometimes the chat turns into, hey, I'm going to call you because it's too much, you know, so it's too much chatting back and forth. We do like our GIFs, so you can see that you can add those in the chat, whether it's in the whole team conversation or in the group. You can actually click on GIF and search for what you're looking for. Okay, there we go. And you can add a GIF and you can put a caption with that and then send it. Aww. Okay, so everybody can see that, or the person that you're chatting with can see that. So, excuse me for just one moment.
The joys of working from your office. And by the way, Rebecca, just to answer your question real quickly in regards to the video, as I mentioned, it will be saved into Stream. We will then be posting those actually to our YouTube channel. So if you're able to access YouTube, you can go to the Computer Workshop channel and you'll find videos there. And then they may also be sending out links via email to anyone who's registered for the webinars for you to be able to view them. And I'm thinking we're probably going to post all of them. So you may want to check out even some of the others, even though you would hear similar content. Each one's been a little bit unique just based on questions that have been answered within those webinars. So you may pick up a few things from watching the other sessions.
Sorry about that interruption. As David said, the office situation does create a few extra kinks that we might not have expected. So, as we were talking about chatting, right? And I came over here and I had to mute myself, so I had to come back to the window. This little floaty window, don't lose sight of this thing, because that's how you get back to your Teams window when I'm sharing. I have to click this and then that brings up the Teams window. Okay, so then I click my action bar and that's the one that actually gives me the ability to change what I see over here in the shared window. Okay, so that little floaty thing can be really important. So I chatted the GIF. Now I had someone yesterday who was a school teacher that was concerned, or was in the education world and was concerned about GIFs getting a little bit crazy. And it can be sometimes, you know, when we're having a chat, there's back and forth and banter and things like that. And a lot of times it's blowing off steam at the end of the day or something like that. But you can go into your settings and control those items, and that is per channel. So if I go back into or per individual, so I can go here and I can go into my settings here and control it for all of chat, or I can go over to Teams and say my kids can't handle that, and so I would have to go over to this team and manage the team, and then one of the options was to control the individual channels and get into the settings. Okay, so a couple different places that you can do that. So I can go here and set those things up. And then there are options to say you don't want to get notifications for this channel, or you don't want to get those, you don't want GIFs to be available. Okay, if you want to turn it off overall, you can just go to the main team settings and turn it off if you own the team. If you don't own the team, then you have to elevate that to someone who does. Because if you don't own the team, then you won't have that setting to begin with. Okay, so that is chatting on a personal level. If I chat with someone that I've never chatted with before, then you're not going to see the conversation. So I think Jen Steinke is one that I don't chat with. I don't have any conversation with. Right, so this is what it would look like if it was the first time you've ever chatted with that person. Then you just start a new conversation. Okay, but then the next time I come back, the continued conversation would be there. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to my Teams icon for just a moment. If you have questions about chat, go ahead and send those to David as we go. We'll try to hit a few more questions after the webinar is over. But I wanted to address, we talked about posts a bit, and I want to take a look at files as well. So now I'm in the webinar that we created. There are currently no files here. So if I want to add a file, I can click the upload button and I can grab a file. I know. Let me see here. Oh, it's just, there it is. There's the file that I want. Sorry. It has to be the right file. So now I have this Word document that has been added to the screen, the team, and anyone who is part of this general channel can see and modify this Word document. So if you don't want people to be able to modify the document, then they should not be part of the team. So Teams is different than some other areas of cloud environments. It does not allow me to say you're on the team, but you can't change anything. The whole point of Teams is collaboration. So if you're on the team, I tap you in to do the work. Okay, so I'm going to talk about opening this file. If I click on the name of it, it opens in the team. And I cannot really make a lot of changes to it. I can just see it. I can read it. I could have a conversation. So David and I could chat back and forth about this if we wanted to. But ultimately, I want to be able to make the changes on the fly. So I'm going to close that and show you another way that we can open it. If I go to the ellipse, this always means more actions. So I'm going to click that, and then I can open it. And I can either open it in Word Online or open it in the desktop application. So I'm going to open it in Word Online. I have to drag it in. So it opened in my other screen and I had to just go get it. It's really small. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. All right, so before I make any changes, I want to make sure that we track all of our changes. So I'm going to go to the Review tab and I'm going to turn on Track Changes for everyone. So David is here. You can see his name is up here in the upper right hand corner as well. And you can also see where he is in the document. So he's got his cursor right here. So we can actually edit this document at the same time and make changes to it. So I think I want to change the order a little bit. I'm going to take the taskbar section and I'm going to cut this and I'm going to put it before the start menu. Okay, so you can see my edits. And now who knows what David has been doing down here. What you got going on, Dave?
Oh, I'm actually up top. Sorry.
Oh, I missed it. Oh, there you go. Okay, he changed the color of the text to green. And so when you make a change like that, it's going to underline it. Now, someone would still have to come back and go through and accept or reject these changes after all of the edits had been complete. But the beauty of this is that you don't have someone emailing out a document that everybody makes their changes to and then tries to email back. Or we have a drive where everybody goes and edits the file and you can't edit it because someone else is currently editing it. We can both edit at the same time. We can both do all the things that we need to do. I can even open this if I find there's something that's not available up here on the ribbon. I can open it in the desktop app, and that will give me the ability to edit this in Word. Maybe. Did it launch it? For my other window. It didn't launch it. Okay, there we go. Now I got the window. Okay, so here we go. So now it comes up in the desktop app, and that just means that I have more features. Okay, so if I go over here to the review tab, what more features do I have? Well, maybe I don't want to see all of the markup and all of the comments. And so I'm going to come here on the review tab in my desktop app, and I'm going to say, let's just do no markup. Now, the markup is still there. We just don't see it anymore. Okay, and so then I'm going to save this. And you can see David is still editing. Now he can be in the desktop app, he can be in the web app, and it's not going to conflict either way. It's going to let us do what we need to do. So I'm going to click the X to go back to the web, just to resume editing on the web. Now, because I turned off that change, so it might not stop showing it on the web since David and I were both editing at the same time. It might not stop showing the track changes until we close it and open it again. Okay, but once you change that in the desktop app, then the next time other people open it, they won't see all of those changes, and someone will just have to go through and accept or reject the changes once all of the editing is done. Okay. Now, if I want to get back to my file, you notice that when this, when I opened this, it opened it in the web app. So I can actually, to get back to my file, to get back to Teams, I can just click the X to close that browser. And there it is in Teams. And if I open it, you would see that all of the changes that we made were still there. Okay. So that is working with adding a file. For the most part, you'll see those little flags like you saw what paragraph David was in and where I was. When you're working with documents, the only one that's a little bit different is PowerPoint. When you are using PowerPoint, if you you can only have one person editing per slide. And when you look at, in PowerPoint, you have your little list of slides over on the left-hand side. You can see the ones that are being edited have a red outline, and so you'll be able to tell that someone else is editing that. So if you're editing a PowerPoint presentation with other people, that's the only thing that you have to be careful of, is everybody stays on their own slide. I actually had a question about that after we stopped recording in the last webinar. So we've got about 2 minutes left. So I want to go back to our chat and see what kind of questions you guys have maybe. Oh, okay, someone asked about versioning. Okay, so that's a really good question. And so let me just hop back over here and take a look at that. So when I look at this document in, it is actually stored. You notice there's this little thing up here that says open in SharePoint. This is actually stored in a SharePoint site. And so SharePoint controls versioning for you as long as the browser or as long as the document library is set up to do so. So when I opened this in the web, it actually created a version. And so I can go and open this in SharePoint. And I'll have to pull this over for you. So here's my SharePoint window. It looks a lot like the one that you saw before. Notice that we're inside documents and it's called general. So basically your team actually creates a folder for any files that are incorporated and shows you a folder for each one. So if I go back to documents, there might be other team folders that are in this. Okay, now my webinar team only has that one. The PM webinar only has that one channel. But if I had other channels that had files in them, you would see that. Okay, and so SharePoint is actually what's controlling your versioning. So you can go here and there is where you could see the version history. Okay, so it's going to pull up my version history for me. And each time we saved that and got out of it, you can see I have 2 and David had 1. So it makes a version each time there's a change and saves that version for you. And so then you always see the newest version. So even though David and my edits were in the same file, because he was the last one to make an edit, it shows that his is the last version. Now, if I were to go through and accept or reject the changes, it would make another version. Okay, so that's how it's going to manage versioning. All right, it is 3 o'clock. Any other questions?
Yes, there was one in regards to retrieving chat.
Okay.
So if you go over to your chat window,
yep,
on the left, this will show you all your chat histories. And notice like some of the icons indicate what they're for. So person-to-person chats will have the person or people's images there. You'll see icons for meetings that you've been on. So those meeting chats are also saved that you could go back to and either retrieve or look through. Make sure we got all our questions answered from the previous webinar that happened.
But likewise, I had someone ask yesterday, how do I get the chat to stop after the meeting is over? And you can actually mute the chat. So it is possible to mute it so that other people don't see it. What is your least? What?
Where do I start?
What is your least favorite thing about Teams? Yeah. I'm not in love with the 4 window, the 2x2 thing. I wish that we could see some of those other things. Yeah, it is a little bit of a complex question. So yes, Anna or Anna, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. There is a recording and we can get you the recording. That is going to be posted on YouTube. Is that right, David?
Yeah, we are going to upload them to YouTube, and then they may also be on our website, and I think we're going to send out a link via email to anybody who registered. So you'll be able to recap this one, and then you'll also be able to obtain video from the other webinars that were recorded. I think we recorded 2 others, so there should be 3 total that they could view.
Okay, and before everybody jumps off the meeting, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. I do have one other thing that I want to share with you. If you haven't already left, this is just a little bit more information about ways that you can follow up with training. So we've got a couple of classes set up next week that deal with Teams and other Office 365 apps that would collaborate with Teams. I think I mentioned Planner and Notebook today. So some of those that you might need, and SharePoint for sure. So there are a couple of dates that are set up, and there's a special class price for the webinar. So you can contact us by the 800 number that you see here, 800-639-3535. Ask for someone in sales. We'll get you directed to the right people. Email us at training@tcworkshop.com. Email questions after the webinar too. If you run into something and you have a question, go ahead and email that to training@tcworkshop.com. And then our website has a lot of information about classes that we offer. So, over 800 different classes that we offer or partner through other training centers across the nation. And so please feel free to communicate with us, get in touch with us. We want to help you during this time to get the training that you need to be able to work from home, to be able to still do your job and be just as productive as you were in the workplace. All right, thank you very much. If you're in chat and you still have a few questions, I've got a few more minutes. So I will be happy to kind of hang out and chat a little bit, if you will. So please feel free to give me those questions, and we'll go from there. David, if you have to hop off here and do other managerial things, I understand it.
Got another. Hopping onto another call. So
okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Good
well,
job.
I'm manning the chat. Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Hey, Yelena, are you still there? I just saw your question about retrieving a recorded chat. Are you talking about a recording?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm actually gonna, well, I'm not sharing my screen right now. I'm sharing my PowerPoint slide. Let me share my Teams meeting again.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I am going to stop the recording. Okay, so I'm going to click the more actions and stop recording. And when I do that,